This is our first webinar of the year, CTEM Done Right, Practical Strategies for Implementation. Thank you for everyone that starts joining. I'll start introducing our panelists today in the meantime. But first, I want to present myself. I'm Montserrat Enriquez, and I'm Marketing Manager here at Reach Security. I'm thrilled to have you all joining us today. And this is what promises to be an insightful and actionable session. So before we dive in, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our incredible speakers today who will bring a wealth of expertise to today's discussion. So first, I want to present Dragos. He's the CEO and founder of SyncCubes, where he's redefining penetration testing as a service. With an engineering background and over a decade of expertise as a system administrator, Dragos transitioned into cybersecurity, a field that he has been passionate about since 1998. His extensive global experience includes working with large organizations across Europe, the Middle East, New Zealand, and the US, bringing a diverse perspective to his work. Today, Dragos drives innovation in security testing, particularly in cloud, AI, and application security. His strategic thinking incorporates cultural behavioral analysis, geopolitical events, and trend analysis, helping clients gauge their true risk profiles and stay ahead of emerging threats. Next, we have Brian Neighbor, our sales director here at Reach Security. Brian is a results-driven enterprise SEAS SaaS professional with over 18 years of experience, specializing in scaling tech startups in cybersecurity and fintech, with expertise in tools like Salesforce, Outreach, HubSpot, as well as sales methodology. Brian has a proven track record of driving business growth, exceeding sales targets, and navigating complex sales cycles. His approach combines deep industry knowledge with a strong focus on building lasting client relationships and optimizing the go-to-market strategies. So today, Dragos and Brian will share practical strategies for implementing CTEM effectively, helping you move beyond outdated security approaches, and of course, fortify your organization defenses. So for this session, we also want to reserve some time at the end for a live Q&A session. So please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A section up in your screen. And our speakers will do the best to address them after they end the conversation. And lastly, I want to let you know that the recording of today's webinar will be posted both on our YouTube channel that I'll share at the end and also on our website in case you want to revisit the content or share it with someone else on your team. So with that, I'll hand it over to our speakers to get started. And thank you once again for joining.
Thanks so much for the warm introductions, Monse. Very excited for our conversation today. And Dragos, thank you so much for agreeing to join the presentation. Very excited for the conversation we have on deck today. I think we'll be able to share some very insightful practical tips for the audience, as well as some fun stories and some anecdotes along the way. So Dragos, anything else you want to add from your introduction side of things before we get started?
I would say we should be set already. So I really like to go into this, and yeah, let's have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think one of the things I wanted to do to get us started in the presentation today is share just a little bit about some of the high-level goals that I think hopefully our audience will walk away from this presentation today. Again, some practical ideas and some thoughts around implementing a continuous threat and exposure management framework within your organizations. Some of the benefits that I think you can see from implementing a CTEM mindset and framework within your organization. Certainly some great stories and some great anecdotes that Dragos and I can share along the way. especially Dragos with his deep experience in the penetration testing space. And then hopefully some things to consider as you're going on your CTEM journey, as you begin to implement that and roll those concepts into your organization, or hopefully some of the practical things that you'll walk away from this webinar today, having learned or getting some insights into. As Monsi mentioned, this is an educational series that we'll be continuing to present going forward, so definitely keep an eye on our LinkedIn pages and our YouTube channels so you can see what we have scheduled for some future webinars and some future presentations. And we'd love to hear from and interact with the audience as well on certain topics that may be of interest to you. So we can bring in as many of those practical experiences and boots on the ground experiences from our clientele, so we can best tailor these presentations to what's of interest at any particular point in time. Dragos, I'd love to dive in for sort of the first topic in this presentation, just to talk about how did we get to this particular point in time from a cybersecurity perspective? What were some of the precursors and some of the methodologies that led to CTEM? And what were some of the perils and challenges and pitfalls that came along with those prior methodologies and concepts in cybersecurity? Do you mind sharing a little bit of your perspective over the last decade on what you saw as a precursor to CTEM?
Yeah, so I'm gonna start with somehow like with from my perspective, how I started in pen testing, what I have seen in, let's say, in early 2000, and how a couple of things that were used to be done at that point in time, and where we are currently sitting at from the older technology perspective, and what actually is going on. So back in early 2000, let's say this penetration testing company, it wasn't even a concept at that point in time. There were different type of people, let's say system administrator, they were highly specialized in doing security stuff, and other they were specialized in, you know, engineering kind of thing, operational side of the business. So some of us, we used to wear this kind of system administrator kind of name, but actually we are security engineers. Let's call it like penetration testers from today. At that point in time, everything, it was way much easier. You know, a lot of issues left and right. Unixes, they were definitely not at the level that they currently are. They used to be a lot of IBM eggs left and right, Oracle and stuff, SQL injection, and, you know, we are not even talking about the cross-site scripting. There were things like remote code execution, or you were in the position to compromise the system via the finger protocol, UDP 79. They were completely different other times. So moving very fast away from that point in time, everything is starting, let's say, I call it like a Stone Age kind of concept. And then they evolve into people becoming highly specialized into effectively doing this security testing. And slowly we are coming into the era of full-fledged penetration testing concept. And when people, they used to do it manually, and then they had to use different tooling just to expedite to understand what's going on, what they are dealing with in terms of a target, exposure, surface, and so on. So like everyone else back in 2000, we are talking about 2000, whatever, 2007-ish, 10-ish. The standard operating procedure for any professional penetration testing used to be like, hey, we have this kind of external infrastructure pen testing combined with some sort of web application pen test afterwards, and we need to get some wind in the for this boat. So we have to use commercial products initially, and any company that at that point in time that used to worth a grain of salt, they use either Qualys, either Nissus. So these were like the top two products. Everyone again in 2003 2000 between that kind of period, more or less, that it was the de facto product. Everyone used to use, like understanding what they are dealing with, like the first thing they it had to be done. And that it was part of any procedure pen tester had on the table, and he had to learn. Of course, on top of that, for the application security, we have OWASP testing methodology that currently is 4.2, and I think 5 is going to be released very soon. And they took all this kind of methodology and pen test methodology and so on. Again, everything what OWASP has on a website, it's absolutely goldmine. So pretty much that should be the Bible for anyone looking to, to build a career in this pen testing kind of, pen testing field. And yeah, that it's the way how you used to do. But starting from, let's say, 2011-ish, 2012, the C-level of any from the companies, especially the one which I used to interact with from the client perspective at that point in time, working for companies like Dell and Perot Systems and things like similar company like this. They started to say, hey, we need to figure it out a way to either to have a product that it help us to automate to bring some sort of automation in the game and be sure that what we are seeing is actually exploitable, because the number of CVs and number of issues started to increase at large pretty much. So that it was one request. The other request, it was, we need something that we like to run on a whatever in a daily basis, or weekly basis, whatever they desire it was at that point. So we ended up by having this kind of requirement, and the product, I would say, effectively until pretty much very soon, they weren't able in the position to provide a clear exploitation path in an automated way to some of the issues that were out there without even the pen tester started effectively to do his work. So here is somehow like a prehistory of how this like a CTEM kind of concept, I would say, it was brought in on the market. Is more like a people fatigue against the issues that are actually non-issues. And to give you an example, I mean, probably a lot of I'm at least from my perspective, I would say that some of these products, when you're, let's say, the commercial ones, when we are using them, they are providing you some sort of findings that are measured, or the final risk, it's completely, look sometimes from a completely different game. Because to give you like for a TLS 1.0, a critical to market like a critical, sometimes it makes no sense, because in today's world, if you are looking at post-COVID era, let's call it that way, pen testing, as the way how we know it is completely changed. It is completely different else. And once this kind of AI was brought on the table, also elevated the game in completely different, even other direction that most of the people they used to know it. We are elevating a highly competitive market with a lot of issues left and right, and with the people time, like security teams and engineering teams, usually in a company, they are tired, man. So honestly, they are completely tired. So when you are receiving a report of 20 findings and you have no idea if that is exploitable or not, under what circumstances, related to your business model or not, and all these kind of bits and pieces. For me, as an engineer, I say, you know what, I'm gonna flip the table, bring someone to fix this, and I need something which is really validates me that whatever effort I'm involving to fix this, definitely I'm spending the right direction, fixing the right stuff, rather than trying to cover all the bits and pieces from sometimes from a pen test that makes no sense, because there is no proof of concept, no real-time exploitability, and so on. And then there's a couple of the other stuff on the table. Geopolitical situation is changing very quickly. That specific business model can be on top of the food chain, being targeted by every day and night by different ransom operators and so on and so on. So with all this kind of craziness happening out there, I would say that here is where I'm a proper CTEM solution with a proper pen testing team. They know their game. They know they have this kind of apex mentality and tell you exactly where your weaknesses are. I would say that should be the norm for any serious company out there.
Yeah. I think you made a really interesting point about the sheer volume of alerts and concerns and vulnerabilities that come up with vulnerability scanning. And we're certainly all painfully aware of the shortage of talent in the industry. There's no shortage of threat actors, and AI being able to create bespoke exploits essentially on the fly has only made the challenge that much bigger in that regard. So I think that provides a really fantastic foundation for where we were, call it 5 to 10 years ago, and why the mentality around moving to a more CTEM focused mindset, but also really highlighting the need to focus on the difference between a vulnerable and exploitable is so valuable for an organization with limited time and resources. Understanding what could actually cause a breach, lead to a breach. The attack paths aren't always as clear. I'd love to hear from your perspective as a penetration tester. When you look at a vulnerability scan output, you really can't just look at it through the lens of severity of the finding. I think you made a very succinct point around the notion of TLS 1.0 being a high criticality issue, but being a very outdated notion as well. From the perspective of a penetration tester, what are the kind of things that you would look for in an environment when you went in? Was there a particular type of vulnerability that you would look for? Was there a lower severity that could lead to a much deeper breach that was kind of low-hanging fruit for you, so to speak, as a penetration tester?
Yeah. So especially in a penetration testing world, there's as usually there's a different breeds of vendors and skill set and so on. The reality is when you're reading a penetration testing report, everyone wants to be amazed. I mean, they want to see something like, hey, I see this issue. Okay, so it is, let's say it's a low, but then in a couple of pages or even more like from the reproduction steps, you're seeing that that kind of law is getting a chain with a couple of the other issues that are described later. And basically that specific individual, it's chaining a lot on a couple of things and say, hey, because of this, yeah, I know it's low, but the chaining with that, and that is, we are going in this interesting situation when a user doesn't have to be called and lured and tell, hey, I'm your grandma, I need to click or whatever link. And because of that, you're gonna, something, that exploit is gonna run. Frankly, in real life, this is highly improbable. Because wherever, when you're seeing a report and you're finding a cross-site scripting as an example, as a reflected one, and it's saying it's high, wow, well, if that reflected cross-site scripting is a high, that even the company, it's a financial one, or who doing that high stuff, marking that specific reflected cross-site scripting has to have a real impact. You can demonstrate like, yes, I mark it high because these reasons. And you have to provide why, all that kind of reasons to make the audience understand, and especially the people which are like director of information security, and sometimes in some particular situations, all these issues and the way how the risk has been analyzed is going to the board level sometimes, but very rare, but it happens. So you have to demonstrate to these people why you consider this is high. So from that perspective, everything, especially from 2023 onwards, if you are not able to provide this kind of highly effective insights about in a penetration testing report and present in a very clear and curated manner which issues are really important to that specific organization, regardless the shape and form you are reporting them, you lost already. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, you have to reconsider the way how you are doing all this kind of offensive testing. And when I'm saying that, it's just because, let's say, that specific company is making the wrong assumption on their security posture. So let's say we are a pen testing vendor, we are coming and we are sending a report that it is pretty much a lot of fluff. And then it's a solution like a Richbot is coming and you are deploying this solution on the site, and then you are starting to analyze, and there is a lot of red blinks and stuff which immediately is getting exploitable. Wow, that it is in on the good side, it is say, okay, I have something which it automates all the process, but which is completely fine. But from a human-led pen testing and finding the niche, and using that kind of human imagination of finding different security issues where they might not be that clear to be seen. your trust, it is somehow something is broken into the process. So that's why I'm saying it's a very thin line between how you embed all this CTEM product and what type of human led penetration testing vendor you are using from the quality of deliverables perspective. And to put it this way, 2020 from let's say post-COVID era is really important for any pen testing vendor out there to have Apex mentality more than ever, because what used to work in the pen testing, all that kind of fluff, like all that kind of pages with missing security headers and so on and so on and so on, doesn't make any sense anymore. I mean, people are the people time is really limited. They want to see the real stuff. They want to have a solution on continuous solution which is really validates and exploits in the same time the issues they found and provide the evidence that that can be exploitable. So only in that moment when you actually see the evidence of getting compromising via automated ways or human-led concept, this is where your trust as a company is growing internally, because okay, we've seen that actually we have evidence that this team and this combination between this kind of approach is working, and we see our security posture like getting elevated, and all that kind of alerts we are getting from wherever who is attacking us day and night, it's just noise. And I can go to phishing pretty much, like I would be a C-level of that company and say, okay, now I can go to phishing and not having any potential security incident. That makes any sense. So all this combination, it buys time to whomever is running that company, which is amazing in from 2023 plus. Free time, it's an absolutely amazing asset. And this is what we should do, all of us.
Yeah, I love the point that you made about the notion that the C-suite and CISOs are more interested in the actionable outcomes versus lengthy reports that cover all of the bases and provide a bunch of information that maybe isn't necessarily as pertinent. We're in a world where we need to move quickly. We need to keep a focus on the things that really truly move the needle from a security perspective. And I think it's an interesting convergence where human-led pen testing, and I love that term, and I'm going to co-opt that and give you credit for that, because I think there is an interesting convergence between automated technologies and that notion of human-led pen testing. One of the common things I talk about with my clients and my prospects is that it's not an either-or proposition by any stretch of the imagination anymore. I think we've moved past a world where penetration testing is a compliance-led check-the-box notion to a world where we need to live in this more continuous threat and exposure management mindset and framework. And there's a convergence of humans and technology there that really puts us in a proactive, continuous mindset. And I've used the analogy of it being belts and suspenders is really the approach there. It's not one or the other. So I think you make a really important point there. I'd like to shift the focus of the conversation now to talk about really the implementation of a CTEM framework. And I think you highlighted a couple of things that I want to dive into from a conversation perspective here. But one of the things that I would really like to highlight, and I hope that the audience here takes away from this conversation, is that CTEM is a mindset. CTEM is a framework. I think CTEM is as applicable to small organizations as it is large organizations as well. I think oftentimes in cybersecurity, there's a notion that certain tooling or certain frameworks or certain approaches to cybersecurity are reserved for the Fortune 500 companies that have unlimited time and resources and budgets. And I don't necessarily think that's the case with CTEM at all. I think there's different levels of implementation, but it's an approach that I think everybody should be thinking about. And Dragos, I'd love to get your perspective on that as well.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you, and I make an analogy for everyone to understand. I know that you and me had a couple of back and forth chats about this, and to me, honestly, being an engineer, it's way much easier to make such analogies to make people understand what it's all about. So, you have your car, right? So everyone has a car pretty much. So you have to go with this car at the service. So usually when you're going there, you are meeting with someone and say, hey, this is my car, whatever the brand it is, and I need to have it serviced. And you say, okay, sweet, okay. So the way how I'm seeing this in all this process, all these components just chaining together with the CTEM and everything, it's like this. You leave the car to the mechanic in that specific service shop, and the reality is like, is really important. And here is where I will make the analogy between the mechanic and the human-led pen testing. That mechanic has the proper skill set, because the mechanic is just someone who just read on YouTube how to do some sort of stuff and has no idea about how the overall the basic of a car with the it's working with nowadays there of course there's electric engines and so on, but the reality of the petrol ones, they are still have they're working on the physics concept, and you have to understand all this kind of process when that specific client of yours is telling you, yeah, I'm feeling some sort of weirdo something's noises when I am in the first gear and so on. If the mechanic is experienced enough and has the proper level, let's say the proper level of knowledge, he's going and he knows exactly where to look, and looking only from the what type of car. If it's a sport car, definitely a sports, let's say a sports car, they're acting slightly differently, and then you have to know where to look from different bits and pieces. And all this kind of experience is getting extended to different from the small cars, the vans, and so on. Then after that specific mechanic is doing his checklist and he's doing the report or whatever he finds, he definitely they need some sort of highly applicable framework and results oriented that keeps the car in a good shape. When I'm saying that, it's pretty much like let's say like a checklist. And here is where I'm making an analogy with a good CTEM. Pretty much that checklist is good. It's like you're checking in the, let's say, some sort of into the car, some sort of analyzer, and then that specific solution, it is going through every single point and is seeing that there is some anomalies, and is trying to prove that if you have that anomaly, it can really damage your engine or wherever your car parameters you have. So all these kind of concepts together is makes you as a client, at the end of the day, when you're receiving the car back, you're getting all these kind of report from the human-led engineer mechanic, combining with the automated software that actually it's looking for proving you what can go wrong effectively with the proof of concepts. Let's put it that way. What can go wrong if you are not take some sort of measures to remediation measures. Then I'll go back to the same service shop every day and night, because at the end of the day, I'm driving that car. My wife is driving that car, and everyone else is, let's say, in my family is driving that car, meaning that we are putting our trust in that. So the same is with the cybersecurity. There's no magic. It's the same thing, like running this kind of business verticals where trust, it has to be gained. No one is giving you any trust. From trust is the most one of the most exchange currency in the world. If you're losing your trust, is done. I mean, and that's why you have to provide trust and provide insightful actions to anyone. Again, in the cybersecurity space and beyond, it's the same framework everywhere. It's a live framework.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the analogy, and I think it's very, very applicable as we think about how to practically implement this and the perils that come with not looking for the right specializations and the right capabilities along the way. I want to share this visualization here real quick, just to sort of supplement the conversation. This is the CTEM life cycle, and I think that there are different elements and different solutions that participate in each one of these parts of the CTEM life cycle. I think what's important to remember about this is the notion that it is continuous. We're moving past the idea of periodic assessments carrying the day from a security perspective, to a place where we're constantly challenging what we think is working. We're constantly validating that the investments that we've made are doing what they need to. And we're frankly looking for gaps in our tech stack and our skill set to be able to address each one of these elements within the life cycle. If you were starting a program from the ground up, And I've got my thoughts on this, and I'll share it as well. But what are the areas of the CTEM lifecycle that you think are the most challenging to implement versus some of the things that are easier to implement for an organization of smaller and medium sizes, maybe as you think about those?
Frankly, the most challenging moment for every company is like to have everyone at the table and be happy with what is going to happen.
Yeah.
Let's call it that way.
Yep.
Because everyone, when he's figuring out that, okay, so there's going to be a team of people coming with a product or not, testing our whatever ours it is, software or infrastructure. Well, that it's the first challenging moment with any organization, regardless of the size. Then, of course, I would say prioritization. It's where a lot of coffees they are getting both, because different teams all in general there are different teams involved in different remediation stages. The DevSecOps or DevOps, whatever that specific client might have, they have to be on the same page. And when you are presenting an issue, sometimes the issue is not necessarily belongs to a team, belongs to the company, and who is owning that specific risk. That is where I would say that is the most challenging initially, not initially, but is the most challenging moment. I mean, you as a vendor, you are coming and you are doing your job and you are presenting a lot of amazing findings and insights about the current security posture of that specific client. But then what? Then is in all these kind of back and forth internal politics, because we have to admit we at the end of the year, every company they have some sort of politics internally. So they try to understand who is owning that specific risk and what type of research they have to allocate for, and who has to to make room for that specific task as well. So when you are trying to put together teams, as an example, from infrastructure with teams from development, things are not necessarily getting that well from some whatever reasons. So I would say that this is the moment when us as a professionals, we have to stay with the client, and even somehow as much as possible, at whatever degree, to get involved into those and have a chat with these people and make them friendly, make them understand, hey, it's not necessarily about your fault, or it's not a finger pointing. It is more like this is the way how we see these things can be done from your business model perspective, and we don't suggest you to fix this because reasons. Otherwise, we suggest you to have the following compensating control, like executing scans like once a week or once a day, whatever, depending on that specific business vertical and their security program requirements. And where I'm seeing a lot of gap in nowadays is like the security vendors are coming and say, okay, we have this kind of amazing whatever they have, and then call us later. I mean, after 3 days, whatever, 1 month, next year, call us later for the next round of doing. Is not that time anymore. So nowadays, I would say in the way how we are seeing more and more this where the penetration testing concept is evolving. People and also organizations, they need more than a simple pen tester. They need expertise, a large knowledge base in the security space, and expertise that can effectively support them to fix that specific gaps in, or providing the proper advisory to the compensating controls they might need in terms of software vendors or other solution that you might not be able to provide to keep to help them out to be in a good shape, if that makes any sense. So this is where I will say that a solution like this, a continuous kind of solution, is the one. It's where it's the winning card on the table. Because if the solution is good and you are getting trust, you know that this solution is helping you out to get a lot of issues from your day, and pretty much enjoy what you are doing as an employee of that specific company, rather than fixing 100,000 stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm with you for sure. And I think one of the concerns that I hear from CISOs and security directors that I speak with on a regular basis is on the left side of the wheel here, so to speak, where it's the prioritization and the validation piece are especially difficult. And then the mobilization and taking action. I think a great many CISOs I speak with are certainly aware of the challenges in their environment. They're certainly aware and have, I think, a good handle on their attack surface, generally speaking. So finding the issues that need to be addressed isn't as challenging. It's understanding how to prioritize and triage those findings, and then the back and forth with the IT team on is this exploitable or is this simply vulnerable? Do we have the right supporting evidence to validate that this is something that needs to be addressed and prioritized, or is this just another issue in the list of vulnerabilities that we'll hopefully get to at some point in time? So having a technology that allows you to identify vulnerable from exploitable is really, really critical, so you know what to use those time and resources on for sure. I would also venture to guess that one of the second order of magnitude benefits that you get from a CTEM mindset is moving away from that single point in time and having a tool like a Ridgebot running where you can see on a regular basis the things that are in your environment. We can validate that those are truly exploitable. Has to also make the human-led pen testing that much more valuable as well, because the pen tester can see what's been done over the course of the year. The number of penetration testers over the course of my time in cybersecurity who had the frustration of coming back a year later and effectively writing the same report because their clients weren't able to catalyze the findings and take actions on those things had to be a challenge for you. Did you see that over the course of your career? And do you feel like being able to do this on a more continuous basis provides a greater benefit and a greater value to the clients when they do their human-led pen testing as well?
So yeah, unfortunately, pen testing, a pen tester's life is not like shiny, and you're not staying at the Bahamas drinking margaritas all day long. It's a completely different ball game, and honestly, it's really boring at some point. After you're doing this for 11 years, it's more like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm so tired because the professional penetration tester, it's a guy which it's follows a highly not sophisticated but highly well-defined checklist, and that checklist it has a lot of stuff you have to check and be sure that nothing. And even the board, there's most of the time 70% is a lot of boring. There is a lot of boring action you are doing. We are seeing currently, let's say, companies that are trying to use AI to do different bits and pieces, but at least from my knowledge, wherever I have seen so far, it's also related. Hey, this kind of AI solution I found a cross-site scripting, or let's say local file inclusion, or a path traversal. I mean, yeah, okay, it's fine, but where is that specific magic? Where everyone is expecting AI to find some sort of crazy magic. If you are reading all this stuff, it's still the same magic. No matter, it's a tool at the bottom line. So if there is no knowledge, the tool doesn't necessarily quite understands how to unite different dots. And there is while, let's say, all this kind of tooling is getting crazy less smart, probably is going to get crazy smart, there is some sort of things, let's say the tooling is the automated tool still that needs like a human-led support in terms of, let's say, business logic, sensitive business logic bypasses, and to understand how different workflows are working and so on. What we notice at ThinkCubes, we are well known for doing shadow testing. What does that mean? Is more like we test for companies in the same time with other companies. So basically, we are testing your security vendor, human-led security vendor. So it's a concept. Companies that are looking to be sure that the security vendor they have they currently have, it's actually delivering what they are saying they are delivering. So this shadow testing, it's a completely kind of, let's say, that kind of taboo kind of concept. Only some people are talking. Yes, there's are companies like ours doing this. We are testing against other security vendors out there, and we are trying to. I mean, that specific client is trying to look to understand what we can find versus what the other, the vendor is finding, and see, where be sitting from the value perspective, and then the return on investment for whatever that specific client pay for the initial vendor. So this is what we are doing. So basically, we are operating at the edge of the sword. I call it every single time. If we need to focus on the only what is exploitable, what is really matters on the, I'm saying from the perspective of let's call it like a dark market value. If what we find doesn't have any dark market value in the let's say on someone it is willing to buy that specific proof of concept from you, it is definitely is not going to be a high or a critical, if you understand what I mean. Mm-hmm. So we are highly oriented to find stuff which is exploitable, no click from user, no calling his grandma, his mom, and so on. It's just, hey, we found this. It is unauthenticated, no user interaction stuff which can happen, and this is where this is real deal. I mean, we're not going to be the only one looking into those. So you have to kind of fix it ASAP. And this is the way how we operate. I mean, I was and during this kind of process, you're encountering. I mean, I'm not even have. I haven't kept track of those, but definitely we have noticed like a lot of, let's say, organizations, they're missing the bar to have previous issues fixed. So we encounter the same and the same and the same, sometimes the same issue, and we have a word, I mean, in a pen testing world, there is the death of passion. So when you are seeing those and you're finding the same issue with different team, with different people, and they are reporting the same stuff, it's downing, frankly, mentally. For you as a pen tester, I've been so many countless times in the same situation. It is really downing mental wise, because you're saying, okay, where is my value? Where is my worth value? What this client is doing? And something inside you it's driving you effectively. Call that client and say, hey, listen, I'm gonna fix that for you. Please I don't want to see this one again, because it's the same issue. So this is I would say that from keeping everyone sane and allowing them the time into to understand and get more knowledge and upskill themselves, please consider a CTEM solution, because the CTEM it's like is running and it's finding the same stuff and it's a tool that actually at some point in time someone is going to get pissed of so many alerts about the same issue that specific solution is finding and exploiting every single time, and sometimes someone has to write this into some sort of risk registry. And especially with the big organizations, you don't want to have easy to fix issue in your risk registry, because if an incident is coming, the cyber insurance is coming after you and is starting to ask so many questions you don't want to answer, pretty much in that direction.
Yeah, I think you made a fantastic point that I want to also highlight, which is around the notion of validating those investments in the security tooling and the products that you've bought. I think so oftentimes in cybersecurity, success is measured by things that don't happen. And it's hard to know if those things aren't happening because you're getting lucky, or you've actually gone and validated that the tooling is doing what you expect it to. Certainly human-led pen testing is going to find some of the cracks along the way, but being able to test is your EDR and your SIM and your SOAR alerting and reacting the way you expected it to? Is your DLP doing a good job of preventing massive amounts of data from traversing across the network when you expect it to? And the way to validate that is to test it. And having tools and mechanisms in place to do that on a regular basis is a really critical part, but it's a huge benefit of this CTEM mindset and framework for sure. I think it's also encouraging and a great way to show ROI to be able to put those things to the test and validate that that's the case, and that the vendors that you've chosen to go with, in fact, warrant your confidence in what their capabilities are if you can actually test them. So I think that's a really interesting point you made there. I would definitely encourage the audience, if you have questions that you would like to have discussed, please feel free to leverage the Q&A. We've got about 15 minutes left here, and I want to make sure we save some time at the end to be able to address those. Dragos, I'm curious, as you think about sort of the next iteration of CTEM, and how organizations can think about success. I think we've talked quite a bit over the course of this webinar about the notion of breaking these things up into small, approachable wins along the way. How do you think an organization can think about defining success as they're starting down this CTEM journey? I think it can be very daunting and very overwhelming to think about defining success early on. Do you have any thoughts around how an organization should define success for themselves and understand if they're really getting the benefit out of a CTEM implementation?
Yeah, so I would say that it is really straightforward. And considering that any organization has already a security vendor, they are doing in some form of shape of security validation or penetration testing to their environment, they have to look into the findings and the way how they are storing all the findings and all the security issues they have been reported to affecting their organization at some degree, and then just try to implement a CTEM, a real one, which is providing proof of exploitability for the issues that that specific product is finding, like a rich bot as an example, and look into all of this and comparing what they are getting from the penetration testing, human-led penetration testing, or whatever the other system they might have in terms like a Nissus or Qualys and so on, and understand and pretty much make comparing the results is what they consider their security their security position currently versus what they are getting as a result of running a results-oriented CTEM, let's put it that way. And then you can understand where actually that specific company security posture it is. I mean, that would be something personally I would start with, just say, okay, let's test this one and see how it finds. Let's put it that way. I mean, it has to be highly result-oriented. It is better. It's how it's evolving during the time. And when you are making everything, it is like having both hands full. You can compare A with B if you don't have both hands full. So always I will advise organization to have both hands full and make all the time, like it's called the Turkish concept. And when you are going to Turkey and going to the bazaar and want to buy something, Turkish people, they're checking in your hand something. So they're putting you in a position to choose or make the comparing A with B, if you understand. So it is mentally wise from a behavior human analysis. It is like you have to make a choice. It's taking this and extrapolate it to our discussion. I will say that always test other things and see which one in a control environment, in a dev environment, when you are also doing the penetration testing, and see what are the results of that specific tool, how good it is, what you can get. And then you're starting to adjust other KPIs or other parameters you already seeing that might need to be adjusted pretty much in terms of maybe you need a shadow testing, or maybe you need to have a discussion with your current penetration testing provider, because they are sending you some low bar issues while the CTEM is finding crazy stuff or even more elevated stuff, which make no sense to you, right? Because you already, your first level of defense is broken. So from all that perspective, I would say it's run all this operation like from a highly effective results oriented concept. I am telling you that there are vendors, they're affordable. You don't have to pay an arm and a leg to get all of those. And nowadays, with all the technology in the space, it's fairly less challenging to have something cheap and really good, not that is running and keeping a company on a very good shape from the security posture wise.
Yeah. I think you made a really interesting point earlier in the conversation as well about the nature of penetration testing can be slow, it can be boring, it can be mundane, but it also emulates what real threat actors do out in the world. I think threat actors live off the land, they live off what's available to them. They do a good job of, it's not necessarily the most sophisticated APTs writing a bespoke exploit or leveraging a 0-day. It can sometimes be the most mundane, low criticality vulnerabilities that lead to the bad thing happening. And that's relatively low hanging fruit from a cybersecurity and cyber hygiene perspective to clean up as an organization. I read a statistic in preparation for this webinar that absolutely shocked me. It was something to the effect of more than 30% of applications are still running vulnerable versions of Log4j. And we're 2+ years removed from that being an issue. Having technology and places and practices in place to be able to go find those vulnerabilities, understand exactly the extent of how exploitable those are pretty simplistic internal housekeeping things that can be done, and that can be success, I think, in the world of CTEM. It doesn't have to be stopping APT 29 from doing something. They're probably not the real threat to your organization. It's the unpatched Log4j. It's having a weak password policy. It's those small things along the way that can be wrapped into this notion of CTEM that can define and create some real success and some real wins and some real demonstrable success within an organization when everybody's concerned about budget and concerned about getting ROI. Those are the wins that can really help keep an organization safe along the way, if you agree, Dragos.
Yeah. So I'm again you are making good points, and it is like a great, like, we have the same vision about what actually is going on. The reality, it's slightly different from the client's perspective sometimes, because they're saying, okay, I have 30 SaaS products that they're sending me a lot of alarms. They have ADR products. I have the XOR products. I have the, why should I use a CTEM? Why should I use like another human-led pen test when I have my vendor, which is doing pen testing 20 years already? Well, if you have that mentality, I mean, based on our experience, it might be possible you are already owned, because there is some, the way how this kind of threat actors, and maybe we can talk some other time about who are actually these threat actors, how they are looking like, who are them. And I can tell you there are people like simple people like us, and there's, from some whatever reasons, they decided to do this. And if you are looking from a perspective of, let's say, I'm going to tell you a quick funny story. Don't try when you're, let's say, I'm traveling a lot in the United States, and when I'm going to customs, sometimes I'm getting asked what we are doing. All the time I'm avoiding, hey, I'm a, let's say, pen tester, or not even thinking to tell I'm a white hacker, and because I'm not necessarily in that direction. And I turn, hey, listen, I'm a security engineer, IT security engineer. It's much easier to make people understand that the white and black hackers, all this kind of dilemma between who is doing what. Actually, all these people that are like at the bottom line, they were some sort of engineers. So just because now they are doing that, we consider them the people from the other side of the table. And they have their own motives, we have their own motives, and so on. They are discussing like us the same stuff, but from a highly effective, how to make bad things happen. We try to play and basically to protect the citadel against them, all their actions. So if you are going beyond this kind of that kind of movie kind of concept, this is our the same analogy with the service store. We need to do our job very efficient, very good, exactly like they are doing, because this is how they are doing it. It's highly effective. We have to be highly effective. This is the way how I'm seeing the whole problem.
Yeah, one of the audience members just chimed in and said we need to mention that we are the Jedi from the right side of the Force. I like that for sure. That's fantastic. Dragos, we're getting close to the end of our webinar here, and I can't thank you enough for joining us. If the folks on the webinar have questions for you or want to get in touch with you, how do they do so?
We have a website, syncubes.com, or offensiveai.com. It's our cloud division. It's straightforward. It's easy to get in touch with us. So yeah, it's really straightforward.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Dragos. I appreciate your insights and your stories and your wisdom along the way. Really fantastic to have you on the presentation today. Quick plug for Ridge Security from our side of things. We are an automated penetration testing platform, very eager to help anybody on the webinar who's on their CTEM journey wherever you're at. We would love to show you what the platform does. I think where we really excel is helping organizations understand what vulnerabilities exist within their environment, being able to automatically exploit those as a threat actor would. So running a penetration test on your web applications, your networks, your APIs, and being able to get a different perspective on that prioritization of those vulnerabilities for the issues that I think give you the most bang for your buck from a remediation and from a patching perspective. Again, we've got a couple of minutes for Q&A, so if anybody has any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A function within the webinar here to ask that, and we'll do our best to address anything that anybody has questions on.
Great. So I received a question. Let me read it to you. It says, what does CTEM recommend about threat exposures that are caused by a vulnerability that we cannot patch right away because of operational viability issues?
Yeah, Dragos, I'd be curious to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, so this is one of that moment when you have to involve effectively with us, like human beings, not necessarily us as Syncubes, but human beings. They're able to discuss with you, understand the context, and help you out with the compensating control. Because we have this situation many times, and I'm okay with that. However, there is so many other ways to keep this one under control. Is more like some sort of disease that cannot be cured because reasons. So we have you might have, that's as a compensating control might be like a hardening procedure, which NSA has, CIS has, all this kind of hardening procedure for that obsolete environment you can use for again, as compensating control is not a fix. It's more like something like can provide to that certain system a decent level of assurance that for a limited period of time until a solution is getting found, you still haven't hardened it in terms of not being able to be that easy to exploitable, or different bits and pieces. Of course, there is, based on every single situation, there's a different compensating controls. I just I gave an example without even knowing the overall context of that that specific particular situation, but this is the way how I will kind of look at it from the like a helping someone, saying, hey, you found this, it's completely fine. CTEM found this, we have no idea how to solve it because we have these kind of policies, and let's say we cannot move to Red Hat 9 because we are currently we have to run Red Hat 7 and we cannot upgrade it because reasons. So you have to go with understanding again what can be uptick from the hardening, operating system hardening perspective, or even application, how to protect the application, how you can put it in the restricted zone, or there is a lot of options. And this is where I would say that it's all this kind of collaboration between humans and proper CTEM, it is bringing value, because definitely can pinpoint straight away and very quickly, hey, I will suggest you to do this and you're gonna be okay.
Perfect. So with that, I think we can finish this webinar. Thank you so much to our incredible speakers, both Dragos and Brian. Thanks for sharing your expertise. So if you're ready to take the next step, feel free to reach out to us and we will be happy to help. Well, stay safe and stay secure, and we look forward to connecting with you on our next webinar. We'll let you know by email. And that's it. Have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.